Hello and welcome to WargamerOnline, and today we've got a live Battletome review for you guys. We're looking at the new Maggotkin of Nurgle, Age of Sigmar 3.
He's green screening.
He's behind us. Big Papa's behind us. You completely ruined the intro.
Yeah, I know.
You realise that. So, let's check out Age of Sigmar 3 Battletome Maggotkin of Nurgle.
Yes.
This video is made possible by our patrons. Okay, so before we get anywhere, Maggotkin, one of your oldest Age of Sigmar armies, is that right?
Oh, I mean, it was my
so.
40k army, and then
Oh, well, there you go.
reconverted over to Sigmar. So
Reconverted
yes.
over. I mean, this is the old Forge World Papa behind us there,
Yeah,
just for a split
yeah.
second there. Converted with some of the plastic parts to have, what is it, bell and sword? Or
The flail and
Flail
sword.
and
Yeah.
Okay, well, before we go any further, the huge thank you to Games Workshop. Of course, they provided us with this preview copy as well as a Vanguard box set and the character as well, which is in
I
build.
can grab him because he's
So
not
there you
green.
go. So
There
you'll
he
be
is.
seeing, and I think Liam as well. Liam on the channel has already posted up on, Twitter and all the rest in terms of the painted model that he's done as well.
Yeah,
So that's pretty
I'll
cool.
do mine.
We're going to be looking at a little bit at the Vanguard set and see what you get in that today. But primarily, what we're going to be doing is focusing on the Battletome, I suppose. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think probably without further ado, let's just jump into this. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Oh, and one last thing to mention. We are going to be doing a live battle report tonight
Yes, to our patrons with Nurgle, with
Yeah, Maggotkin of
Maggotkin
Nurgle.
against Sylvaneth. I think.
Yeah, I think we're just going straight
More
up on
on live.
YouTube with this one. Though.
Oh, are we doing
yeah,
straight
yeah,
up on YouTube
Yeah,
on
there's
this
about
one?
4
Okay.
or 5 exclusive patron live battle reports that we've been done, and we thought, why not do one on direct on YouTube? So I think we're going straight onto YouTube with this one. Maggotkin versus Sylvaneth. We might talk about the list later and talk about why you chose that list. But for now, let's have a look at this Battletome. Right, okay, I'll tell you what, while we've got Martin Dix on the chat. Hey Martin, and Big Tom's on the chat. Big Tom, hope you're feeling well, mate. Wait, I may be getting my Toms mixed up. I don't think I am, though, but I hope you're recovering if you are the right Tom. But yeah, good to see you on the chat. And of course, if anybody else joining us wants to ask any questions or get us to look at anything in particular in the book, then do so. We're happy to pretty much flip through most of this. So, length of show? I don't know. We're aiming for about 45 minutes, but we'll see how we go, I think.
Yeah.
Right, let's jump into this. Tom, Martin, any questions, you fire them up on the chat. I'll try and keep an eye out. All right, as ever with these wonderful Battletomes.
No, go back a page.
Go back a page, go back a page.
Look at him, look at him, look at
Look at the
him.
big pot. He's such a happy papa. Look, oh,
He's so happy.
He's a big happy papa.
He's got his
isn't he?
big tongue.
I mean, it's probably worth mentioning before we get too far into the book, isn't it? We all love Papa Nurgle, let's face it.
Everybody. Who doesn't love Papa Nurgle?
He's just too good.
He is the pinnacle of the Chaos Gods.
They've got such a fantastic lore about them. The fact that they're go happy lucky, just super happy gardeners.
Yeah, when they're in their garden, when they go to the Mortal Realms, though, they get really annoyed because it's all so sterile and they're not happy.
That
but
is
then
true.
they plant some heads and they get happy.
But
again,
essentially,
so.
they're the Sam Ganji. Of
Yeah.
Age of Sigmar.
It's always the Nagash book which gets me when all the Nurgle demons are, ooh, we'll plant in like
Oh, they all
heads.
talk like farmers in the audiobook. Yeah, absolutely. But and once you've listened to an audiobook
That's
where the
all
Nurgles
it
talk
is.
like farmers, like West Country farmers, you ooh,
Ooh,
you've got them mowed
That's-
over a Stormcast
That's
head.
what they are.
Absolutely brilliant. And apologies to anybody from the West Country, by the way. That was terrible.
Appalling.
I think you get the idea, though.
Accent.
So yeah, we're pretty excited to see the book because
Yeah.
it's always been one of those fun factions. I tell you what,
it's been-
Jack, you've played Nurgle for a while.
So long.
You've gone through the book. Let's cover some like broad brush statements to start with. Is this one of those battle tomes where they pretty much play as they used to play, but things have been tweaked around, or is this, hey, I've got a new army, just old models?
No, it's a very defensive army, as Nurgle should be. grinding people down over the turns. To me, they fit their fluff of what they should be like. So they are very similar to the old book.
That's the sense I got when I went through it, was Nurgle, for some inexplicable reason in Age of Sigmar 2, were like one of the fastest armies in the game.
So fast, just sprinting across the board.
Insanely fast in the game, which always felt kind of counter to what it was. This kind of feels like it is this lumbering, disease-ridden army that slowly works across the table, not necessarily killing everybody quickly, but grinding them down with disease and death, basically.
Definitely.
And then just not dying themselves.
Yeah.
I think the only question is that, and we'll talk about this as we get into the Warscrolls themselves, is the question is whether they've made it thematically feel as it should be, which I think, to be honest, I can say now, scored.
Yeah, definitely.
It looks like it will play how you expected them to play. Maybe.
But whether it becomes a hindrance... Because they have this new disease mechanic, and let me tell you, they've gone all in on this disease mechanic. They made it, and they like it, so every rule kind of reflects this disease stuff now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's going to be interesting to see whether that makes a competitive mechanic.
Yeah.
They're going to play completely differently.
Yep.
They're going to play in line with their lore, I think. But the question is it going to be fun to play, and is it going to be...
We're going to see.
We'll see. We're having a game tonight. I'm pretty excited by it.
Yeah.
You know, let's caveat that battle report right now. We're going into this with very little practice, so mistakes will be made. But, you know, still, be good to have people along live. You know, giving us cues and tips and questions as we go along on the battle report. Look out for that. The link's not live yet. That will be about 7 o'clock tonight, live UK time. Right, let's get into the book a little bit more then. I always like to kind of, I know you like the lore and the fluff, and so do I, to be honest, and we always kind of talk about it a little bit. You've had a kind of
flick through. As far as kind of lore progression, there isn't much. There's kind of some stuff going on in the realm of life, how Nurgle are corrupting a bunch of the Dawnbringer Crusades in the realm of life and are beginning to materialize the garden into the mortal realms. So Nurgle is making an advance, his garden is growing. Alariel's big burst of life magic, Nurgle's figuring out how to corrupt it now, and they're starting to push back.
Yeah, so you've got this kind of oh look, is that Lumineth Realm Lord getting a bit of Nurgle?
Getting Nurgled.
Okay, so yes, you've got this life into death section, which kind of covers where you know, the Nurgle have burst forward again. But other than that, I was going
to say, one thing I really like is Torglug the Despised, who was a character in the Hallowed Knights book and the Plague Garden book, who's a really, really cool character, and I'm glad they kind of put him in there for a little bit of lore.
I love Torglug. He was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and then Tormund, I think he is.
Is Torglug the one?
Tornus the Redeemed. That's
it. Is Torglug the one that was a hero but was turned into? As in, he was a hero.
He was like a really good hero,
and then turned into
becomes a Nurgle warrior and gets corrupted.
Well, and we're not going to get with no spoilers then on what happens to Torglug, because it does make you wonder if he'll feature in.
Yeah, whether one of these days they'll get something.
Okay, well, if you've not, what book was that?
Hallowed Knights, I think.
Hallowed Knights.
Or
check it out.
Garden, one of the two.
Yeah, one of the two.
I think he's in both of them. So.
Yeah, either way, super cool character, and you do need to check.
Wardens of the Everqueen. That's
Wardens
it.
of the
I've
Everqueen.
made my mind up.
Okay,
that's the one.
That's it. Okay, so from a fluff point of view, like you say, not much advancement.
No.
You know, there's this kind of, you know, this bursting forward.
Love that artwork. Love classic demon artwork.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So funny. So funny. By the way, Tom or Martin on the chat there, if you can let us know if audio is good, that would be fantastic. All right. If we don't want to go too much into the fluff, let's start picking out some of the stuff you found interesting. Maybe we need to look at that mechanic. So
start the mechanics off, yeah.
Yeah, should we kind of get into the mechanic play? I mean, you know what? Let's do the book some favors at least, and I think let's just take a quick look at some of this incredible artwork and painting that's going on. Particulars, by the way, the single best unit model in Age of Sigmar. I mean, not from a competitive point of view,
No,
but just from that super
Mulch
incredible
is gorgeous.
rule of cool.
Look at him.
It's just amazing. And you should have him in every army. He should be like a universal
He's
hero.
The best thing ever.
Just shows up to any army. But some beautiful artwork, some beautiful models in here. It's always good to see. The Glotkin themselves.
Glotkin's back, and he's
You got a
back with
feeling
vengeance.
you're wanting to do something with Glotkin this time around, is that right? So yeah, as ever with these books, let's not ignore this wonderful midsection where you get a lot of inspiration on painting. I really like that colour scheme there with a much more fleshy colour on the mortals and the kind of the dark green armour. And by the way, again, another fantastic model. That was so inside the Underworld unit, wasn't it? Yeah, great stuff. It's a good book, as ever. They always do good, nice painting guides, all the rest, but let's jump into the rules. So this mechanic, Jack, I'm looking for guidance from you.
Just on the next page there.
Excuse me. So it's prior to the cycle of corruption. There
Battle traits. Okay. They've shown this on the community, so I'll very quickly run through it. The whole army revolves around this disease trait now. So kind of when you're near Nurgle at the end of movement phases and at the end of combat phases, you get disease points to a maximum of 7. Any hit roll of 6 from weapons inflicts disease points as well. And then at the start of the battle shock phase, you roll a dice for every disease point, usually 7 because that's what it can cap out at.
Yep.
And for every 4 up, you take a mortal wound, and then you go back down to 1 disease point. And it continues to tick over, so you never get rid of disease points. However, you can heal. And when you do heal, you can remove 1 disease point instead. If you've got a wizard who's taken some disease damage, is now free, but you don't want him to keep taking mortal wounds, you can do a heroic recovery to try and get rid of the disease points rather than heal wounds.
Okay,
that's their big army mechanic.
Okay, that's interesting.
I like it. It feels thematics. As we go through the book, I'm going to have some gripes with it. But as a rule in itself, I really like it. And it feels like it is. You're near Nurgle, you're getting disease, and it's kind of slowly wilting you down to nothing. Which is cool.
Yeah, I think that's the case, isn't it? This is a cloud of disease that is spreading forward. And the army, again, broad brush, the army's lost its speed.
Yes,
it's slow
super
and lumbering
slow now.
It's still incredibly resilient.
Yes.
And in fact, mortals have become more resilient. So you get this idea of an army that occupies the table, occupies objectives, and essentially absorbs damage, probably doesn't deal a lot of damage. We've gone through the books. There's not a lot of high rend. There's not a lot of anything like that going on.
The army doesn't do damage.
But what you have got is this cloud of disease and pestilence doing a huge amount of chip damage across multiple units, turn in, turn out. And it's certainly effective against low wound single heroes and stuff like that. That's where it feels like it's, it's going to chip a model or 2 off other units and stuff like that, definitely. But it's those low wound, important aura effect heroes, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
That if you can get the disease counter on them, and you've got limited options on how you heal that off, that's going to be a challenge. I mean, it is going to be interesting given for instance, the battle report we're doing tonight, Sylvaneth versus Nurgle. I'm taking Sylvaneth. They've got a lot of heal.
Yeah, you're not bringing Ilaria. Ilaria would completely shut that entire mechanic down with her army-wide D3 heal.
Kind of feels like Ilaria should be a hard counter to Nurgle.
Of course she should. Yeah, Ilaria should do that. And I really like how, actually, Nurgle and Sylvaneth are these arch enemies, and Ilariel actually works really well against the Nurgle rule. And I kind of like that.
Right, we've got some quick questions coming up. One, Big Tom laughing his head off at a West Country Nurgle accent. West Country, rather. Well, no, it is. If you've not heard the audiobooks from GW, man, check out the ones with Nurgle. They are hilarious. For starters, you'd fall in love with all the characters. And he also says he's got a thematic army with Torglug in. But he's not going to mention which army because it will spoil it, which is kind of a good point. Spoiler alert. And then goes on to, if you heal 3 damage, could you remove 3 disease points? If they're allowed
each
to...
wound they're allowed to heal, they can remove 1 disease
Yes,
point. Yeah.
so you
so,
can heal.
so yes, you can. The only thing is, a lot of healing happens in the hero phase, which at that point you've taken the disease damage and it's ticked down to 1. So you're probably not going to be healing too much. But
when in the hero phase does it happen?
sorry, no,
Interestingly enough?
you roll it in the start of the battle shock phase and then reduce it down to
Oh,
1.
I see what you
So
mean.
when it comes to your hero phase, you're only really going to have 1 disease point. But if there are things like, Gorgons, which eat as they destroy units and stuff, which can heal, so you can remove your disease points in the combat phase.
You can heal
and
mid-game,
take less
good point.
disease and
Good,
stuff like that.
Solid point, actually.
So there are a couple of good things about it, and it is quite good as a rule. It's just when it comes to the rest of the rules in the army where it starts to become a bit of a problem. But I'll save that until we get there.
Well, we'll see, won't we? I mean, the point is, I do think that is quite effective against high army, potentially like elite high armored armies. It feels like you can stack the disease plus
things like
it.
maybe Stormcast, where you've got these high armor wizards. You can kind of do some spells to get disease points, and it's kind of passive damage. The only thing is, it feels super thematic because that's what Nurgle do, don't they? They grind you down over a long period of time.
Give you coughs and sniffles and sneezes.
Age of Sigmar doesn't play like that. You win in either turn 3 or 4 in most games.
In the competitive world,
So,
I see your point.
If you're kind of ticking down with disease points, it's probably going to take you 4 turns to kill a wizard, and at that point they've done what they need to do.
But again, also if you're not dying, and that's the question of how resilient is the resilience.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, talking of resilience, maybe that's a good segue into the disgustingly resilient rule.
Yeah. Army-wide, 5-up ignore now, 5-up wards. So mortals, demons, everybody who's Maggotkin of Nurgle gets a 5-up ward. That's really good. Mortals now have a place in the army. In addition to that, everybody heals 1 wound.
Sorry for the cough there, folks. I do apologise.
So everybody heals 1 wound in your hero phase. Again, really good. There is nothing in the army with 1 wound anymore, so this will pretty much always be coming into effect.
Right, okay.
Which is really cool. You have the Locus of Fecundity, which if you're a Great Unclean One or some of the named characters, you have a 14-inch aura of healing D3 instead of 1.
Right.
I would have maybe liked that to be D3 plus 1, because that's going to be really annoying. If you're like, okay, I've got my Great Unclean One, roll a D3, I get a 1, and it's like, well...
Yeah, but, the average is 2, so at the very least you're doubling the effect, aren't you?
Exactly.
But yeah, okay.
So that's good. You've got some heal. There is definitely less healing, but you do have the heroic heals now.
Yeah.
So maybe that's kind of balancing it out. The corruption points have changed a bit. You kind of get it 3 corruption points if you're wholly within your territory, 3 corruptions if you're wholly within your opponents. That's the same as usual. 1 if there's no enemies in your territory, which is kind of good. The only problem is trees only give you 1 corruption point instead of D3, so it's a lot harder to get corruption points.
Yeah, I mean, 30 corruption points for a Great Unclean One feels
you're
like...
never going to be getting that, I don't think.
Unless you specifically
Unless you
built
go
an
all
army
in on
around
some way of generating corruption points.
Okay, understood.
So yeah.
All right.
A couple of things, but again, it's all right.
There's a change to the cycle of corruption then, yeah?
Yeah. I kind of read this and I was like, whoa, the cycle's amazing now. And then I realised the spell to change the cycle's gone. I'm like, oh, the cycle's pointless now.
Well,
kind of pointless. So, for everybody who don't know how Nurgle worked, they had this cycle of corruption, and you would kind of roll for it at the start of the game, and it would start at some point, and it would tick round every turn to give you something else, which is like really cool. You used to be able to cast a spell to like change the cycle, which was a bit overpowered because you used to be able to get like 1 effect and then bounce it to get another effect, so you would get like 2 effects in 1 turn. So I kind of get why they've got rid of it, but again, it's a bit annoying. So number 1, Nurgle heroes get a 4-up ward. Really good. Great and Clean Ones on a 4-up ward is amazing. Number 2 is, what's that? All
Feculent
units are within the Locus of Fecundity. So everybody heals D3 instead of 1.
Within 14 inch of the Locus of Fecundity.
Yeah. So basically everybody heals D3 instead of 1. They all count as being within
the Burgeoning, number 3.
Not bad. Start of your hero phase, roll a number of dice equal to the current battle round. For each 4-up, you get a command point. pretty good if you
that's
get it
not bad.
late game.
And that's a command point, not a corruption point. Because interestingly
Oh,
enough,
I think
they
it is a
put
corruption point,
CP,
isn't it?
don't
Yeah,
they?
yeah, no, it is. It is a corruption
CP.
point.
Okay,
So it's
so
a corruption point.
Good
not
way
a
of
command
stacking
point.
the CPs.
Again, a good one
Yeah,
to
but
get it.
4 up, you know, on turn
If you get it on
4,
turn
yeah,
5, it's
If
maybe it will bump
there's-
you to get
it
plague
feels.
bearers.
I'm about to say this. It feels like there's a lot of multiple. If I look out with Nurgle,
Yep.
it could be amazing.
If the stars align above your head, then
okay.
it's going good.
And let's face it, they're happy chaps. Look at the smile on this
Yeah.
fellow. I mean, can he get right in there? There you go. Oh, you can. Look at that. Look at that smile. Anyway, the
This
Plague of
one's
Misery.
really good. Heroes who don't have Nurgle keyword can't do heroic actions, and you cannot issue rally or inspiring presence. That's really good. No inspiring presence, no commands. That would fit really well if you're on this and you go, okay, right, now I'm going to do Slay the Warlord, and you can't do their finest hour.
Right,
So
okay.
now I'm going to assassinate. It kind of gives you that turn where you can assassinate somebody.
Yeah. Nauseous Revulsion, number 5.
Subtract 1 to charge, cool, and you can't pile into them. Again, really cool. I like that. Very
Yeah.
good.
Whoa, what? Cannot pile in?
Yeah. So you can't pile in closer to Nurgle. Really good.
Rampant disease, add 1 to disease rolls that you make.
Again, going to a 3 instead of a 4, really good.
So this is your challenge, and this is coming from
Oh,
yours.
and you can get one and this is number 7, which you can
Corrupted
never start
regrowth.
on. You get 1 corruption point for each regular normal.
Okay.
The challenge is there's no manipulation, and it's a dice roll at the start of the game.
So you roll a dice, it picks one of them, and then it just advances around in that order. Is that correct?
Yep. So I can tell every single game I'm going to roll a 3 for the burgeoning, and that's going to be gone in early game, and it's going to be pointless.
And almost a bit like, I think, possibly the not pile in one on
Yeah.
turn 1. You know, you're going to roll a 5.
So it definitely feels like you've got to roll your cycle of corruption at the start of the first battle round as well. So you don't even get to deploy before choosing it. So you deploy, you roll it, and then that's kind of dictating how you're going to play the rest of your game.
I mean, can I just counter, though, that I think all of those, to a degree, are quite powerful. So if you could actually call the shots on which one you're going to get on which turn,
exactly, it would
that
be
would just feel
really
broken,
powerful.
You know?
Maybe
but-
if there was like, if the spell you can't choose the wheel, but you could like bump it forwards or backwards, maybe.
But the wise Nurgle player that rolls a 3 in turn 1 and knows that in their turn 3 they're into nauseous revulsion and time your attacks and tagging of the ends of units, etc., 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 knowing that this is the turn they can't pile in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, is you've got a shifting feast of tactics. I'd almost like it that the tides work like this. Like you roll a dice to see
where the tides
start.
Yeah,
Is the battle always starting at low tide or high tide? Do you know what I mean? And because it's a bit like in Iden of Deacon where it's always turn 3.
Yeah.
Whereas it would change, you know, the mechanic quite dramatically. So I'm actually a fan.
Yeah,
I'm actually
no,
a fan,
no,
but I know I'm not.
I do like this. I think the kind of the individual abilities are really good. So
Okay, I want to just quickly cover. We've got some stuff on the chat here that I want to quickly cover. So, Twister Bishop's in. Appreciate the helpful little plague bearer. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, he's lost his legs.
He's lost
He needs
his
to
feet.
get fixed,
He's lost
but-
his feet, so he's on the table for fixing. Basically, that's why he's there. Grant Pete says, "Why haven't you posted any bat reps recently? You're my favourite to watch." Okay, well, 2 reasons. Jack returned to university, so he wasn't around to post battle reports, and I keep looking at the screen and realising the camera's over there, so apologies for that. We have been filming battle reports, and in fact, we've had guests coming in to do battle reports, but we've been doing a new live format, very, very similar to the old format, almost no change whatsoever. But because that was kind of an experimental format, we've been streaming those live to our Patreons. So they've been dialing in, watching, chatting during the game and those kind of things. Now our intention is to release those to YouTube over the coming weeks. And in fact tonight, because we're confident we've got that live format fixed at least, or at least working, we are going to do a live battle report to YouTube tonight. And it is going to be Maggotkin of Nurgle versus Sylvaneth.
Yes.
Thomas Blackhouse, hello, Jumps. Everybody well? Yes, we are well. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us on the show. Right, what else have we got to talk about? Do you want to talk about enhancements?
Enhancements, right. There's some decent ones, but here we start to see some of the problems. Grandfather's Blessing. Okay, this was one I talked about. This is once per battle you can move the cycle forward one. This is your only manipulation of the cycle in any games. It's once per battle you can move the cycle forward.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all right. I like it. However, it's your general trait, and there's better things to take. If it was advance it forwards or backwards one step, I'd be like, okay, that's interesting, because, you know, you do Unnatural Vitality for a 4-up ward on your Great and Clean ones, you go to Feck and Vigor, and you're like, well, that's a bit useless, I'm going to go back to Unnatural Vitality for 2 rounds of a 4-up ward.
Yeah.
Whereas you go to there and you can move it forward one, and maybe there's some play, but personally, I don't see much of it. You've got Infernal Conduit, which gets you more corruption points. On a 2 to 5, it's 1 contagion point. On a 6, it's D3 contagion points. Again, it's alright, but it's your general trait for 1 contagion point, and there's going to be some better things.
Start your hero phase, roll a dice. This is Living Plague. Enemy units within 7 of this general. On a 2+, give that unit 1 disease point, and you receive 1 contagion point.
That's not bad. If you could get
Feels like it's going to stack.
If you could get a Lord of Afflictions in amongst a bunch of characters,
or an MSU
and you
army,
can get
but,
loads of contagion points off that. But again, it's very situational to what army you're fighting.
True.
So
Still feels like it'd stack up because it's every hero phase. Isn't
yeah,
it?
it's start of your hero phase.
Well, okay, yeah, but sorry.
Avalanche of Rotten Flesh gives basically a charge ability, so it rolls as many dice as the charge roll every 6 is a disease point and a mortal wound. I like that because it's a mortal wound and a disease point. That's really good. So, you know, like your characters, I'm going to say Lord of Afflictions a lot because he's a pretty good character in this game. Again, he's kind of like 8 wounds, a 5-up ward. You can throw him into a unit. He doesn't have that many attacks to stack up disease points, but with that, maybe you can cap out at the 7 disease points and do a bunch of damage.
Yeah.
Not bad. This gives, again, it's general, disgustingly resilient ward roll of a 6. You give a disease point to a unit. It's more disease points. Again, if you're doing it on a Lord of Affliction and he's on his own, he doesn't have that many attacks, so he's probably not going to get the cap.
50% of your resilient rolls going through to create disease points. And if that's a turn, they're taking a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And then you're ignoring a lot of that damage.
It's pretty good on a character because, like I said, he doesn't have loads of attacks to get loads of 6s for disease points.
I think the thing is it's the mechanic to turn disease points into mortal wounds at the end, which makes me think, you know, okay, let's put him against some of the big stuff, you know.
Yeah,
and, you know, all right, okay, so I stack up Gargan. I stack up 7 disease points onto a Gargan. On a 4-up, I'm going to do 3, possibly 4.
And then that dude's just getting slapped off the table.
over 5 turns, you know.
Maybe. And it's okay, maybe he's good against wizards, but he'll probably kill wizards with his attacks.
And I know we're over focusing on this, but we're focusing on it on this is the mechanic that this army does this chip damage across
and that they've pushed
entire armies
everywhere. So.
Yeah, and they've pushed it everywhere. So it's one of those things, isn't it? Maybe against the bigger, harder stuff, was capping disease points at 7. I know it's thematic because it's Nurgle's number, but maybe not capping disease points.
Yes,
would have been interesting.
I'm going to kind of talk about it. I'm going to talk about it when I get to certain points about things that I think they could have done. But anyway.
I know we're jumping ahead of the game, aren't we? So
the last one's amazing. This is the problem, is that those 5 that we talked about, just throw them out the window because I think you're always going to take this one. Enemy units within 7 inches of this general cannot issue commands, and enemy units wholly within 7 cannot receive commands. Brilliant. No inspiring presence, no all-out defense. Great, I'm taking that every single time, and I'm never going to take anything
and it
else.
stinks because it's an overpowering stench.
The demon ones, so the gift of febrile frenzy, throw out the window. It's not worth anything. Once per game, wholly within 7-inch aura of +1 attack. Wholly within 7, once per game. No, it's not worth it.
Yeah, you
no-
just don't get to pick it. That's the challenge, isn't it, with anything like
It's
that?
just wholly within 7. Like, how are you ever
Yeah.
going to get anything wholly within 7? Nurgling Infestation is not bad. Subtract 1 to hit rolls for attacks that target this general, and +1 to hit for Nurglings wholly within
That's pretty
7.
cool.
Not bad.
There's a
Nurglings
lot-
aren't
well,
too bad for disease points
There's
stack
more
up.
Nurgles. We'll talk about the Nurgling attacks when we get to
No, it's Nurgling Swarm, so it's at the actual unit.
what a
Yeah, no,
shame, sorry.
if it actually worked on the host of Nurglings for
that would have been so sweet.
for the Great Unclean, that would be amazing. But no, unfortunately not.
Okay.
Pestilential Breath isn't bad. It's a kind of a 7-inch breath weapon. Roll the dice for every model within 7, 5 up to do a mortal wound. I used to love things like this, but in AOS 3, you're seeing less hordes, less big units, so these things have kind of depreciated in value, but still not too bad.
Okay, I'm conscious of time.
Yeah, I'm going to speed it up.
Should we start
on
picking
what's
on a few
good.
things? We got artifacts of power. Anything you want to?
Some of the good ones is Rustfang. So Rustfang was always really good. You used to nick somebody with the Rustfang and then -1 save for the rest of the battle. It's once per game now, but again, AOS 3, you're having a lot of these god monsters. You know, you charge some dude into Archeon and you're like, ha, you're a 4-up save now for the rest of the battle.
Yeah,
Whee!
which is pretty cool. I think that's great
Yeah.
for the rest of the battle.
Also, 4-up ward on,
Discussing the
on the
resilient.
dude, so not too bad again.
Yeah.
As far as demonic boons, I quite like the Wither Stave. It was something I always liked in the old rules, but now I quite like it again. Add 1 to disease rolls for enemy units within 7. So it goes from being a 4-up disease roll to a 3-up, which is really good. I like that.
Excellent.
So that's one that I would pick out from the demonic boons.
Okay. Just want to check with the stream, by the way. Anybody there tuning in, can you just let us know if the stream's working okay? I'm getting a slight error message on drop frames, but just let me know if it's still watchable or whether it's corrupted down to terribleness, because, you know, it is Nurgle.
Yeah. It is Nurgle.
Spell laws?
Here we go. Every single spell just seems to give more disease points. Blaze of Putrefaction used to be amazing. Used to put on a Nurgle unit, hit roll of 6 as a mortal wound. That was too powerful, I'll give you. Now it's a 5 or a 6. You do a disease point of damage. The units that this would be useful on with lots of attacks are pretty much always going to cap out at those 7 disease points. And this is the thing that kind of annoys me. Like, everything is about giving more disease points, and it's like, but I'm probably, if I'm charging somebody into combat, I'm probably going to cap out those disease points.
So, and that's the whole point. You feel like it's actually not that
Rather
hard
than giving more disease points, maybe manipulate how the disease points works or something
so it becomes
like that.
a 3-up.
It's something like that. I mean, Blaze of Putrefaction, I don't know what else they could have done.
I think your point is you're looking across the whole book and saying, I can't see how I'm struggling to get up to 7 almost every turn.
Yeah.
You know, it's just...
Like, every single...
And those 7 don't do that much.
Anything that
you know?
used to do mortal wounds now does a disease point, and that's basically on a 4-up does a mortal wound. And it might not even take into account because I might have maxed
50%
out.
of what you previously used to do. Yeah.
So this is a problem I'm starting to have, is just everything is more disease points.
I'm still coming back down to, and this is the what needs to be tested to a degree, is just how resilient is the army. Because again, you don't need to do damage.
Yeah.
You can just annoy your opponent by slowly chipping them away, and they become less and less effective as the game goes on. As long as you're resilient enough to survive the game. That's the question, isn't it? That's the play. I mean, that's the Nurgle play.
Yeah, no, that's the Nurgle play.
Go forward,
Keep
sit,
just
don't
grinding
die,
them down.
and slowly chip them away.
So maybe there's going to be... Again, I'm saying this without even playing a game. Maybe I will struggle to hit 7 and these spells are going to be really useful.
And then you're like, okay,
actually, this is really good. Rancid Visitations, the spell, amazing. 7-inch, roll the dice for every model within 7 on a 2+, it's a mortal wound.
Oh, okay.
That's super short range. Just spell portal it, then it's super powerful. That's like, oh what, you've got 20 skinks as a screen and they're all gone through my spell portal.
Wow,
Really
I was
good.
just actually checking it wasn't all units within 7, because that would be vulgar. It's just one unit, but even so, picking... You know, we don't see as many hordes. You still see them in a couple of factions, but you don't see as many. But yeah, interesting.
So again, might be something that's good. Favoured Poxers is good. Again, I'm thinking in some
What am I saying?
lists.
2 up to do mortal wounds is amazing.
It's
Sorry, I was just thinking like
insane.
4 up.
Even
or
on like a
something.
unit of 10,
Sorry.
you're going to be killing like 8 or 9 of them. Like, it is bonkers.
Thanks, Thomas, by the way. He's just let us know all seems fine. Okay, good.
Favored boxes, again, is a good one. So that's kind of, it's kind of got a bit worse, but it's a 14-inch range. As long as the cast doesn't move, attack, do any more casting, unbinding, or dispelling attempts, or is slain, subtract 1 from hit and wound rolls, and subtract 1 from save rolls.
Yeah.
Really good. It means your dude can't do anything, but I would happily take a Herald with a spell and spell portal that through. That's really good.
Understood.
What,
sorry. Was there more you wanted to go? I do apologise.
Fleshy Abundance, which is the spell that Maggotkin has. You can now put it on your demons to give a demon unit +1 wound characteristic.
14-inch range. Pick one friendly unit within range, which is quite nice. It's a broad enough range. I always find a lot of spells sometimes get penalised a little bit on the range.
Within range. Yeah, it's just within range.
So.
Invisible to cast. Add 1 to wound characteristics for that unit. So you're putting Plague Bearers on 3 wounds and.
I mean,
fun trying to
that
get through
feels
that.
like a high utility spell, really.
That's
it feels
really
like
good.
that's going off all the time.
Yeah.
If you know.
Yeah, you're gonna focus
on
in
this
on
sense. Do you want to talk about Plague Legions and Contagiums? I mean, a good word, by the way.
This very much seems like, oh, you're running this unit, take this thing. If you're playing a bunch of Plague Drones, take Droning Guard. If you're playing a bunch of Postal Blight Laws, take Drowned Men.
But and again, that lends itself to the idea of building a thematic list, though, doesn't it? You know, you're not going to see much soup. You're going to see people focusing on and kind of going, I want to do a Plague Drone faction.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and it's like subtract 1 from all hit rolls.
It's not bad because it's on the turn they were set up as well. You can like teleport them in with Lords of Afflictions. And you can kind of bring them down and try and get those 9-inch charges and you're -1 to hit, which is pretty good.
Anything in this list you picked out and gone?
Well,
I'll tell you what have you taken for the battle report?
I think I took Munificent Wanderers just because I couldn't see the use of any of the other ones.
If an enemy unit's within 3 inches of a Munificent Wanderer Plague Bearer that has 10 or more models at the end of the movement phase, it receives 2 disease points instead of 1 for being within 3
Again,
inches.
Plague Bearers are going to max out on the 7 just with their attacks.
Yeah, probably.
I would have liked that thing to maybe be 3 up to do the disease rolls.
I mean, this is the whole thing, right? Let's just bring in this resilience discussion again, right? They're going to you say they're going to max out on the 7, but they're going to max out on the 7 when they're a full unit. What happens when they're down to that one annoying Plague Bearer that's still dishing out 2 corruption points? You know?
Yeah, and then no, because they have to be 10 or more models.
Okay, good point. Sorry. Yeah.
It's not bad. Again, like you're getting those disease points, you're racking them up. You combine it with the Great Unclean one, who's giving that 7-inch aura of +1 to disease rolls, and they're on 3s. It's probably pretty good. Like I'm not complaining about it. It's all right. So some good stuff in there.
Okay. As ever, we're into the Path to Glory section. There's some cute stuff in there.
Yeah,
it's one of those things.
Fluffy,
Path to Glory, it's fluffy, it's
disease.
fun. I love the idea of veterans, veteran Nurgle. You know?
Yes, yeah, Nurgle veterans. That's been gardening for a while. pro gardeners.
Okay, where are we at? Seeds of Corruption.
Yeah, keep going. That's just
going.
kind of like Path to Glory battle.
Okay, so I think we're pretty much zooming forward into.
Yeah, you've got. I'll quickly talk about this. They're matched play, grand strategies, and battle tactics. If you're playing friendly games, sure, go with it. It's fluffy, it's fun. If you're playing competitive, just do the ones out of the core book. They're 100 times easier. The only one that's pretty good is Sudden Domination, which is if you know you've got 30 corruption points and you're going to plop them on an objective, go for it. There you go. Easy
so
battle
you can
tactic.
complete this task if you summon a Great Unclean one.
And it's within 3 inches of an objective that you controlling your opponent's territory at the end of this turn.
Yeah.
It's like, if all those stars align, go for it. It's easy one at the end of the game.
I mean, so far from any of the new books, I kind of feel that's the case. It's just like, it feels like it's you giving yourself more work to do.
Yeah.
I certainly felt that with the army I play.
Cruel Boys.
Cruel Boys, thank you.
Yeah. until tournaments start saying you have to use your book battle tactics and stuff, I don't see myself using them all that much.
All right, cool.
Core battalions, you've got Thrice Fall's Befoulment, which is 3 Great Unclean ones, and you get an extra artifact. They're 500 points each. That's 1,500 points for your army. Hey, if you go in big Great Unclean ones, sure, but it's going to be a pretty small army. The Rotbringer Cyst isn't bad. I can see people doing kind of big Postal Blight Lords armies with like 3 Lords of Afflictions, 6 units of 2 Postal Blight Lords, and they're all up in the air ready to deep strike down in a 1-drop, which would be really cool. it's thematic, isn't it? So
Super
again,
thematic, just a whole bunch of disease-ridden dudes arriving.
it's not bad.
For dinner.
For din-dins.
Right. We're into the Warscrolls.
Yes.
We're not going to do it. How much time are we in here? We are 40 minutes.
Okay.
We give it another 20 minutes
yeah,
on Warscrolls?
I
How
can
about
run
that,
for
guys?
20.
Because I'm conscious I don't want a show to run on forever, but we also want to give you, insight into the book. So
and again, if people like pop along to the battle report we're doing later, I'll kind of try and explain it
answer
as
more
I'm going.
questions as well. Yeah, and the answer to questions you got.
Exactly.
In fact, Grant says, "Nice, defo be watching tonight. Good stuff, Grant. Cool. Well, hopefully, like I say, we've done 4 or 5 live to patrons that are on there at the moment. We will release them to YouTube at some point, but they were kind of done as test games. We had some real fun with some of the patrons. There was one game where I think I was playing Mark.
Yeah.
And I think like one of our patrons was like a backseat
Oh
general.
yeah, backseat
It was
Stormcast.
it was hilarious. It was just like, don't forget this, don't forget this. I'm like, dude, I'm like playing Legion. I'm kind of like
just a million patrons appear.
It's like I'm not like one of those like chess dudes that can take on 10 people simultaneously. But it was a lot of fun. Right, Liam Alford says, hi guys, making a cracking job as always. Oh, thank you, Liam. And don't forget to check out Liam's, what's the character called?
Sorcerer, Rotbringer Sorcerer.
Rotbringer Sorcerer, that has been posting up on our social channels. So I think that's gone on to Twitter and, what's the other one? Instagram? Maybe. Thanks, Liam. You tell them actually, Liam, seeing as though you're here. Right, let's do this. Do you want to talk about Rodigus?
Yeah, I'll talk about Rodigus.
As I like to call him, Rotigus Prime. And I don't know why.
Rotty G.
But he's just
he's
like
Rodigus Prime. Yeah,
Rodigus
Optimus Prime. Rodigus Prime. 4-inch move. He's slow, but he's big. 20 wounds, which is impressive. With a 5-up ward, isn't bad. He's going to be sticking around for quite a while.
Let's talk about this because it's the first time we've got into the stats. The army is slow. It's a 4-inch move.
Oh, the army is like
much.
a 4-inch move across
There's
the
a lot
board
of 4
with
inches.
Bugs being an 8-inch move.
So it's not quick. But again,
No.
we talked about that at the start. That feels like the theme that they're pushing for, yeah?
Yes.
But there's some interesting stuff taking place outside of... Well, wounds have gone up, yeah? That's right.
Wounds have gone up.
Bravery has
Bravery's
a
10.
save.
Saves the same
Saves
as
the
usual.
same, yeah?
Right, the one thing that sticks out to me across this army is the lack of rend on everything. Everything has no rend and is pointless.
Well, the Fang Maul, but it's a D3 attack. Yeah.
I'm on about kind of just on all the
you're
Warscrolls.
just in general.
And there's
right.
kind of no way of doing mortal wounds apart from the disease rolls, which is very kind of slanted. But remember, there are lots and lots of ways of reducing your enemy's save in this army. With Rust Fang and Glorious Afflictions and stuff like that, you can reduce save characteristics rather than having rend.
Okay, so that's the mechanic. And again, thematic, kind of cool.
Yep.
They're not going to hit you hard because they're just rotten little dudes.
But they can decay your armor down so they can hit your squishy stuff. Which, again, I don't mind.
Okay.
His attacks, not bad. 5 attacks at 3 damage.
Let's get Gary in.
One thing that I really like is
Gary Lightspeed, as we like to call him, because he's got a 5-inch move, this guy.
Of course he has.
Just
he's
this
super
one
fast
model, yeah?
Because he's got no legs.
Go on.
I think the best thing they've ever done in any Battletome is take the Nurgling attacks on Great Unclean ones from 3 to 15.
Just there, that bit there.
Which is just a disease point battery. That's what it's there
And can
for.
I just say, you will always lose your favourite model to the Nurgling attacks. Always. And please tell, I want this to be a community-wide thing, yeah? When you're playing against Nurgle you get to the Nurgling attacks, make sure your Nurgle player is always doing the Nurgling attacks last. And just as it's about to roll the dice, say, not like this.
I love them. I love them. They make you disease points on characters with low attack profiles. I think it's a really good thing they've added in to allow your Great Unclean ones to get those 7 disease points. So I'm happy.
I'm still thrilled about the 15 attacks off the Nurgle. It's just a swarm of little dudes spilling out of his belly ball. Yep. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. Let's cover some of the rules.
I mean, he's a War Master. He's a 2-cast wizard like the Great Unclean one. Bloated with corruption, so instead of doing a mortal wound on a ward of 6, it's a disease point. You know how I feel about that. However, Rotigus can now re-roll the casting attempt for his Deluge of Nurgle spell, which is huge because I always failed that spell and it drove me up the wall. So I'm happy I can do that now.
You get a chance to re-roll it. Okay.
Deluge also does mortal wounds, so Deluge is really good.
Yeah.
And
So casting value of 7. If successfully cast 7 dice on a 5 plus, you pick one different enemy unit
anyone
that
on the
is
table.
visible to the caster. Any of those units suffer D3 mortal wounds.
So it's good at doing. So like you can do a bunch of disease points to heroes, cast this spell to chip them down a couple of wounds.
You're
and
looking
hope
at
the
two
disease
or
takes them
three
out.
D3 mortal wounds. So you know, 6, 9.
Yeah, it's not bad.
You know, that's what you're aiming for,
It's
really.
not bad.
You've looked out if you've managed to dish out 9 mortal wounds from that spell, but it's still good enough. At 6 on average, it feels like, well, potentially on average, it feels like a little dude remover.
It's a decent spell. I can see putting a favoured Glorious Afflictions on him, casting his Deluge, then Glorious Afflicting through the spell portal, and him just sitting there for the entire game.
Yeah,
I can see that happening.
Yeah.
Amount of Loathsome Flesh is really good, so it's a now Monstrous Rampage on a 2+. You do a number of mortal wounds as shown, so 4, 3, 2, 1, so 4. Big thing about this, can be done against monsters, unlike Stomp. So it's like a better Stomp, and you can do it on monsters. Really good.
I love that.
Really good.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always said one of the things I quite like when they introduce a new mechanic like Monsters Rampage and stuff like that is looking forward to the Battletomes that come out and break it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, and that's always fun when you see...
Kind of faction-specific Monstrous Rampage.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Like it.
So, like that. Great and Clean one is better now. So he's 18 wounds instead of 20 compared to Rotty G.
Yep.
His shooting attack's not bad. It's -3 rend on the shooting. Pretty good. All his attacks have become bonkers in combat. The flail's now 3 damage, the sword's 4 damage, the bile blade's 3 damage, the bell's 2 damage. He's got 15 Nurgling attacks again, cool. 2 cast wizard, bloated with corruption, mountain of loathsome flesh, same as Rotigus. The bell now doesn't give you extra movement speed, it gives you contagion points.
Okay.
Great, so I can see people kind of, you know, even running the thrice-fold Befoulment Battalion and having 3 Great and Clean ones with bells to try and just get corruption points as much as possible. The Bile Blade is no longer cut yourself a +1 to cast. It's now cast an extra spell, which I don't think is as important, but when you look at it, you have to choose between Bile Blade or Plague Flail, and the Bile Blade's just 1 less attack than the Plague Flail, so it might be worth it.
Okay. Interesting.
I'm not sure. Plague Wind, again, is a bit pants now because it's a 4-up to do 1 disease point, and then it's a 4-up to do a mortal wound from that 1 disease point.
Again,
and
classic Nurgle casting value of 7 as well. So, but you know, it's going to go 4-up like, as 1 disease point.
14-inch beam. Yeah, that's... You have to roll a 4-up to get the disease point. Then you have to roll a 4-up to get the mortal wound. It just seems a bit inconsequential.
So it's a 14-inch range. You pick a point in the range visible to the caster, draw a straight line, and that point in the closest part of the caster's base. Roll a dice for each enemy unit that passed across that line. Passed across by the line. So, again, it's one of those things...
It wasn't even each enemy model. If it was enemy model, I'd be like, okay, that's pretty good. You know, I can beam through a unit
pretty hard
to get
to
a
tag.
bunch of...
It's pretty hard to tag, say, maybe more than 3 units with a straight line over 4 inches, 14 inches and less. Unless you're lucky.
Again,
and then it's onto the 4-up, you know, and that's why, what?
And then it's a 4-up to try and get that mortal wound at the end.
2 up, you may be better.
Yeah,
Anyway.
Or every model. So again, seems a bit of an inconsequential spell.
Okay.
Other things to talk about... I don't know, Epidemius is a bit better. He, like, creates tallies of diseases and then can use them for rerolls on, like, casting and dispelling. So I can see people bringing Epidemius. The Spoilpox and the Sloppity didn't change too much. Plague Bearers are 2 wounds now. Brilliant. Love that. Love that for them.
So, but again, as we're seeing, the 4-inch, 4-inch, 4-inch.
4-inch.
But 2 wounds. With that ability, what was it, making it 3 wounds?
Making them 3 wounds.
Yeah, which, you know...
The 5-up ward, 6-up save, though, so they went down in a save, but they got a wound.
So we're back to the ward, and we're back to that resilience. We're back to this army stands on its resilience, really.
I'm alright with that. I think they're good now.
Hordes change much, or...?
No. He plants a tree, and then moves around on his snail, doing snail things. So
and that's looking cool.
Yeah.
Super fast, 5-inch.
Yeah, fastest unit ever. 5-inch Beast of Nurgle for those real cavalry alpha strikes.
That was one unit I could have stood a 6-inch move on.
Yeah.
Because they're so happy.
Yeah, it's the one thing that should be said, that you're never going to be able to retreat with Nurgle. 4-inch move isn't enough of a move to get out of engagement range if they've began to kind of encircle you a bit. So you're never going to be able to retreat out of combat because you can't retreat and run.
Which kind of feels right,
Do Nurgle
doesn't
retreat? No. So that's good. Beast of Nurgle, again, not very good. They're all right. They're 8 wounds. They can run and retreat. They kind of do disease points when they do retreat.
Yeah.
And they do mortal wounds on the charge, so maybe like running big units of them and they're like bashing in and doing mortal wounds. Sure.
Yeah, but again, we're not really talked about it. No rend 1, -2 on a D3 attack.
Yeah, no rend.
-1, no rend on the bigger attack.
But again, you
know.
have ways of reducing armor save, so I think that's what you're going to have to rely on.
That's what it's all about.
Plague drones are drones have gotten worse because they haven't split the attack profile, so they've lost the rend D3 damage stinger. Now it's just 6 attacks of nothing. But they're Death's Heads. I mean, you can get like 21 attacks out of a unit of 3 with Death's Heads when they throw them.
And
So,
that has the putrid explosion, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's this? The attack characteristics of Death's Head is equal to the number of models in the target unit to a maximum of 7, hence giving
And
you
you
the
can
21.
put disease points on them. So you can like move forward, throw a bunch of disease points onto a unit, charge another unit, and try and get disease points over there.
Okay.
So cool.
All right.
The one that I wanted to talk about though was Maggotkin, really good. 20 wounds,
Glossy
5
G.
up ignore.
Yeah.
So he's super survivable now with a 4-up save. He does have some -2 rend, but low attack, high damage kind of.
Yeah, but that's
you
okay.
know, 2s,
That's
2s,
okay.
-2, 3 damage.
You can live with low attack if
Yeah.
you've got a decent rend behind it. You know, -2
Not
being the new
bad.
-1.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a War Master, so in general can cast 2 spells. Mount of Loathsome Flesh he does 5 mortal wounds with the Mount of Loathsome Flesh, so that's really good. I really like that. He does have Abundance of Flesh, which he can cast onto Maggotkin of Nurgle mortals, but it should be noted it is Maggotkin of Nurgle, so you can no longer coalition marauders in and make them 2 wounds. So you're basically making Blight Kings from 4 wounds to 5 wounds, so that has lost a lot of its utility. The big thing about him, though, is this Blightcreek and Horrific Opponent. I really like this. So Horrific Opponent is at the start of the enemy movement phase. You roll 2d6 for each enemy unit within 3 inch. If you roll equal to or greater than the unit's bravery, they must retreat or take d6 mortal wounds. So you can scare a unit away from you,
Yeah.
and then you use Blightcreek, which is at the end of the enemy movement phase. This unit and another Maggotkin of Nurgle unit can charge. That's huge. We know from orcs how powerful this is. You can set something up for a charge, and then the Glockkin goes, "No, I'm going to charge you." Or like those orc things where they put the Maw Crusher forward to charge into your lines, and then the Glockkin goes, "No, I'm going to tie you up for the rest of the game. Have fun. Here's 5 mortal wounds as I do it."
Yeah.
I
And
really
actually,
like
you
it.
know, the Glotkin's capable of doing some damage as well.
Yeah, he
And
is.
of course, you've got the whole, you know, the disease points building up as well.
Yes. Yeah. So he's really, really good. The Maggoth Lords are a bit better. I'm not going to kind of go into them just because of time-conscious time, but
Okay.
have a look at them. They're decent now. Lord of Afflictions, he's a good one for me. 3-up save hero with 8 wounds, a bunch of nonsensical attacks, but he can do mortal wounds with his Incubatch. Pretty cool. He does mortal wounds on the charge. Pretty cool. 2 up to do D3 because you always give him the Dolorous Toxin. Cause why would you ever not?
So this is what add 2 to the rolls if this unit is armored.
So
with
on a
toxin, or
2
4 up,
plus,
it's sort of D3 models.
on a 2 plus because he always has the Dolorous Toxin.
Yeah, okay.
It's D3 mortal wounds, not bad. But he can give you the Swarm Descent. So him and up to 2 units of Warscroll Blight Lords or Plague Drones can do a deep strike.
Is that your model that you've converted
Yeah,
with the blades?
the
I think we've actually had him on the
mechanical
rotating behind us. I think he comes
he'll
up
come up
next, doesn't
soon.
he, after this, doesn't
We'll
he?
just wait,
We'll just wait
Um,
for the big guy to
But it's not
rotate
bad.
with.
It gives you some much needed speed. It gives you an Alpha Strike capability. I can, like I said, kind of with that 1-drop battalion, I could see people running like 3 Lords of Afflictions and 6 units. Oh, there he is. 6 units of 2 Warscroll Blight Lords to just deep strike down, and they'll just be everywhere.
We've got a question actually from Liam. What will you be playing tonight? So what's in your list before we cover points of the pitch battle profiles? Yeah.
My list is Great Unclean One with Sword and Flail. I got both of the demon heroes, the Soppity Biopiper, the Spoilpox, a Lord of Afflictions, 4 Puskroll Blight Lords, 2 units of 20 Plague Bearers. Because lots of wounds.
Oh, look forward to
it's
that.
kind of a mixture of I wanted some mortals, some demons to see.
Yeah,
how it
this is
works.
no way an optimized. This is what the tournament list is going to be look like. You just pulled a bunch of stuff together and said, let's see how the new mechanic works out.
Yeah.
We'll not go into the Sylvaneth list. It's Sylvaneth. It's not an Ilario list, though. We've gone away
But
from
I think the mortals,
more Warsong Revenant.
Yeah.
Okay.
the mortals have gotten better because kind of Blight Kings with a 5-up ward on 4 wounds now. They're a big tar pit to get through. Puskroll Blight Lords doing impact attacks on the charge now. Again, that's really good. Each one of them does impact attacks, so not bad. You may be doing 2d3 mortal wounds from a unit of 2. It's pretty good.
Excuse me. Right, okay. One last quick look at pitch battle profiles. Anything stand out in terms of point-wise? We
Everything
tallied
is
up. It's gone up, hasn't
incredibly
it?
expensive, yeah. Because everything's a lot of wounds. Plague Bearers are 150 for 10 now, but that's 150 points for 20 wounds with a 5-up ward.
Yeah.
That's all right. 250 on Blight King seems a bit rough, but maybe I haven't played with them, so maybe it's all right. 700 points on the Glockkin definitely seems too much. But,
Yeah, I mean, that puts him into the big boy territory, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Did
that
it
puts
feel
him
like
more
that
than
instead of
Marathi.
Archaon and
That puts him
more than Marathi?
No, he's not better than Marathi. But Marathi is underpointed, so
No,
that's...
she's not. She's fine.
Yeah, of course she is. Puts him similar to Teclis and stuff like that, and I don't think he's that level. I think he should be that level, but I don't think his stats are that level.
Okay.
But apart from that, everything's got price to it. So you are going to have quite small armies, unless you go crazy on something. But everything's high wounds, everything's high resilience. So for those points you are playing for those elite things, they are going to stick around for quite a while.
Excellent. Okay, so where does that leave us in terms of just generally where you think the army went to?
I'm going to struggle to say before playing with them. I think they're good in some matchups, bad in the other. They definitely didn't seem to me like when I opened the Stormcast book and I saw the dragons and the Dracothian Guide, I'm like, well, I'm taking an army of them, aren't I? Like, that's all I'm going to take. Here's a unit that can move, do mortal wounds on the shoe, and have like -2 rend 3 damage attacks.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, this unit does everything.
The obvious winner.
You didn't seem to have that in this book. Mid-tier maybe, in a first impression, but I'm not an expert in any way, so don't take me on that. But I'm happy with it. Like, Nurgle are fun, aren't they? You know, spread some disease, spread some love, give some hugs.
What more could you want?
Maybe some sneezes, but not in this time of Corona, so...
Well, I think at that we're pushing at 58 minutes and 28 seconds.
Do you want to talk about this quickly?
Let's just talk about this, yeah.
The Vanguard box. It's pretty cool. 750 points. Good Path to Glory starter.
Thank you to Games Workshop for sending it along with the character. We are going to be painting these up, and they will be featured in the battle reports as well. So
I think so. I think they are a better than the old start collecting boxes, because that is genuinely the start of a Path to Glory. You and your mate are getting into Age of Sigmar, and you want to build up your army as you go. I want to play Nurgle. You want to play Stormcast. Okay, I'm going to buy my Nurgle Vanguard. You're going to play your Stormcast.
You know what,
Vanguard.
as well? It's got some cool kits in.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, Blight Kings is a really, knowing from like the kind of sculpting and modelling and painting side of the things, Blight Kings are a solid unit, and they're a great unit. You know, you got the Plague Bearers in, that's cool. You got a decent character in there in the Scrivener, but I really like the fact that you get the Puskroll Blight Lords as well, because they are an awesome kit.
Oh, yeah.
So it kind of feels...
It's a really nice place to start.
It's a great place to start.
Somebody was like, oh, guys, where do I start with Nurgle? This is kind of what I would have said to start with. So they've done a really good job here.
Yeah, yeah.
Really like that.
If you want to pick up one of those boxes, don't forget to check out, we're affiliate with Element Games, so pop along to Element Games, follow our affiliate links below. Yeah, I'm sure they'd appreciate you buying a box or two.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think that gets us to the end of the show, really. Let's just double check Ooh, Thomas saying, how do we feel about the points cost for the Glotkin, though? I think we've covered that, so maybe that's just the lag between what we've talked about and a bit steep.
But again, I'm saying all this about playing him. He might be unkillable. I might throw him into Archeon and he just bounces off him. So,
yeah.
Who knows? Maybe that Blight Creek horrific opponent is super powerful.
Well, you only got back from university yesterday, so we haven't had chance to do much with this one, have we? So, but like I say, we're going into a battle report tonight, and we'll have a toy around with it and see how it comes out.
I do need to paint my Maggotkin up, because I would be bringing him if he was painted, but...
Glotkin's going to need some love.
All right. Need some love.
Okay, folks, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to all the usual stuff, like and subscribe. But I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who came along today, commented, asked questions. Whoa. Gary retired to a peaceful substitute teacher job after an unfortunate war wound. Oh, of course, it's Gary.
He teaches gardening rather than enforces it.
Grant, we'll see you on the battle report tonight. Links will be following shortly, so just look out on either Facebook or just... If you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, you'll see it come up as well. So, because we're not 100% certain on the start time at the moment, we've got some stuff to do today, but it's going to be 8 o'clock UK time, and we are limiting the game to a 160-minute tournament time sequence. So, which is something we've been doing with the live shows. Who knows how long it will last? We'll just have to see.
It might be a bit of a slow one as I try and learn everything, but I think it seems all simple enough.
Well, we'll do our best, and that's all we can do.
It seems simple.
Thank you very much for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to do all of the usual stuff. And if you do want to support us and see some of these exclusive battle reports we've been talking around, pop along to our Patreon, links below as well. You can subscribe for just a couple of quid, and it will give you access to some of that content as well. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the other side.
See ya.